Hello. Welcome to Relationships Uncensored. Hi, Dr. Temi. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome, Isaac. Welcome, Nubianella. John, good to see you. Isaac, welcome. I believe we should also be live on YouTube and Facebook today. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be looking at some fantastic things. This is Relationships Uncensored. We're going to talk friendship today. Yes, if you are on YouTube, if you are on Facebook, would you just send me a message? Just post something to say we are good. Insta, stay where you are. I know there's some people who are not on Insta, so we're helping them out by jumping on YouTube and Facebook. Fantastic. How is everyone doing? Thank you so much for joining me today. It was semi-impromptu. I've been thinking about doing these lives about relationships for a while, and I realized that I decided to do it in my mind. Hi, Celise. I decided to do it in my mind, but I hadn't really put the word out as quickly as I'd like to. But we are here now, and I'm looking forward to it. I will turn that off and hope that works. If it doesn't, we'll restart. Okay, I think we're good. All right. Hi, Anu. Hi, Priscilla. So good to have you guys on. Thank you for jumping on. Thank you guys for jumping on. I really appreciate it. All right, let's look at some things on relationship. I hope you have some questions for me. Some of you have already submitted some questions on Instagram, and so I will look at those questions and go over them. I'm going to spend the next few. I think there should be four Sundays in February. I'm going to. Hi Manu, good to have you. Hi Bridget, thank you so much for jumping on. I'm going to spend this time just investing a little bit in relationships. I didn't want to wait till we did a series, and I probably will do a series at church one day. But I want to. There's so many of you who are not part of Radiant City, but can be blessed with what we also share. Hi Joshua, thank you so much for joining today. So I want to make sure that as many people as possible are connecting, as many people as possible are receiving, are being blessed by these things. And whenever we get to share them, we'll share them as well. If you're on Facebook and YouTube, you know the drill. Please hit the share button, put the word out. We are live. We're talking relationships. Let's dig in. Let's pray. Father, thank you for this time of gathering. Speak to us, move in our lives, change our lives through what we hear today. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so I'll start by telling you this. I want to talk about friendships. I remember a couple of years ago, and actually it's happened a few times now with my daughter, where there has been, you know how kids are. There will be people in school that are unkind or nothing drastic or major, but just unkind, or just a situation or different situations that are not nice. And I remember a couple of times having a conversation with my daughter, trying to explain to her that just because somebody, that particularly when someone is consistently a certain kind of way to you, you have to understand that there is a way that a real friend behaves. In other words, you can't call everyone your friend in the same way, right? And so for her, I've had to go through a process of kind of redefining what true friendship looks like. And I think that this is not just something I've seen with my daughter. It's something that I believe, Instagram, bear with me 1 second, is something that I believe goes on in life in so many different ways. What I see so much of is how sometimes we pay so much attention. Bear with me, I just want to sort this battery situation. Okay, we should be good now. Okay, we want to pay so much attention to everyone. We almost define friendship incorrectly, and as a result of that, you get hurt because you have your expectation set in the wrong way. And it's a terrible thing when you think someone, have you ever been in a place where you thought someone was your friend, but actually they weren't? Hi, Stacy. Come on, let me know. Has anybody, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, it's so good to have you guys on. Have you ever been in a place where you thought someone was your friend, but after a period of time, you realize, actually, I don't know whether this is how friendship should be. Come on, YouTube, Facebook, anybody. I'm seeing some real people on Instagram who are admitting that this is the case. But I think on Facebook and on YouTube, they haven't been in that kind of situation before, which is really good, right? Which is really good. I'm teasing. And so what we need to do, the real problem is sometimes the real problem sometimes is not what they did or even how they did it. The real problem a lot of times is really our definition of who a friend is. The real problem is our categorization of who a friend is. This happens on so many different levels. This happens even in dating relationships. In dating relationships, you would often find that there are people who, people who are dating who think they are on a certain level, who think this is where the relationship is going, only to find out that the two of you were, your definitions of what was actually going on was really in that kind of direction. You were not on the same plane. I want to know that there are some people, come on, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, tell me again, is there anyone here who has ever been there in a dating relationship where it turned out actually you thought this was heading this way, but you're really not on the same plane? Even married relationship, dating relationship, business relationship. And so a lot of times the issue I find is the definition of the relationship. I think one of the key things that you have to be able to do in your life is to define relationships. Be clear about what's going on. Most men don't like that. We don't like the question, so where is this going? If you're in a dating relationship, gentlemen, I know you particularly when it's just started, you kind of don't want to hear the question, so what are we doing? Where is the relationship going? So even though we don't like to hear that question, or most boys don't like to hear that question, I say boys because when you're a grown man, you understand that you have to define things. Even though we don't like that question, exactly. See, Nana is a grown man, so he says back in the day. It's only when you're dealing with a boy that is not yet ready. It's that those are the people that get snappy about those kinds of snappy. Do you see what I did there? Okay, those are the people who get really kind of funny about those kinds of sessions. Okay, those kinds of questions. But when you are grown, you understand that definitions are necessary. Right? Definitions are necessary. If you do not define a relationship well, if you don't define what's going on, or at least even if you are not able to define it, you understand in order for you to move things forward, you've got to define it. These situationships you find yourself in, they're not helping you, right? Can I just go straight into it? This is not a Bible study. I'm just coming for relationships, okay? These situationships you help yourself in, they're not helping you at all. They're not doing your mind any good. They're not doing your health any good. It is important to clarify, right? All this kind of, so what are we doing? I'm seeing somebody. What does that mean? Right? I get that all the time as a pastor. So what are you doing? and they say, I'm kind of seeing somebody. What does that mean? These days, that means for a lot of people where, you're sleeping with them. For some people, that means we're going to the movies. For some people, that means there is a casual thing going on. And please I hope your children are not on today. Okay? In these sessions, please don't bring because this is Relationship Uncensored. I plan to just kind of let it all out, just kind of go for it, go everywhere. All right, so make sure your children are not watching. And if they're watching, this is parental guidance necessary. So I hope you give me permission to be uncensored. Okay? So it is important that definitions are necessary. It is important that you define. If you want to give security to the people you are in a relationship with, it is important that you know how to define relationships well. That you know how to categorize, you understand where the relationship stands. And so today, what I want to do is I want to talk about 3 stages of friendships. This is not primarily about dating or anything like that. I'm going to just talk about friendships today. In the course of the 4 Sundays that we have, what I'm going to do is I will talk about friendship. I'm going to talk about dating. I'm going to talk about family relationships, and I'm also going to try and cover marriage. I'm going to cover those 4. I think that it will kind of, based on the questions that I've actually got so far, it's all going to merge. It's all going to, there will be overlaps, but by and large, we're going to cover most of these. So today I want to talk about friendships in particular. Friendships are necessary. Psalm 68 talks about how God places the lonely in family. God is invested in relationships. God builds his kingdom. What God does, he does through relationships. And so I want to dig into this and help you categorize different kinds of friendships so that you just know where things are and you don't have an undefined relationship and therefore an unmet expectation or an exaggerated expectation from somebody who you should have been expecting less from. Okay? So there are 3 levels of meaning in relationship. There are 3 levels of friendship, or 3 stages of friendship that I like to categorize them as 3. These are the 3 stages. Number 1, associates, right? This is friends who are just your associates. Okay? The first level is friends who are just your associate. This refers to anybody who is around you. Anyone who is around you in your geographical location, they are referred to as friends. So those at your workplace, if you are right-minded, if you are healthy in your mind, if you have a healthy way of looking at life, it should be the case that when you step into work, you don't have enemies before you say hello to somebody. Everyone get what I mean? By default, everyone around you, when you step into the bus, by default, everyone in that bus, in that moment, is a friend. Come on, give me a thumbs up if you understand what I'm saying so far. Okay? Those around you at work, those around you at church, the employees that you have, your colleagues, your friends at university, your friends at college, these are all friends. Okay, so everyone has a friend. Stop saying I don't have any friend. Every relationship starts from here. It starts from this place where you are friends by virtue of the fact that you are in the same geographic locations these days where we are virtual. It doesn't necessarily need to be geographic. It could be that it is a virtual colleague that you're working with in New York whilst you live in London. Right? It is a virtual relationship, and by virtue of just association, the fact that we're employed together, that we work together, there is a level of friendship that you already have. It is smart and it is healthy that at least you don't see them as your enemies. Okay? Now, there's nothing wrong with this level of friendship because sometimes it is just what it is. I think it's important to acknowledge this level of friendship because most friendships start off just as associates. How many people have people right now who are such good friends in your life, maybe even your spouse, or your best friend, or just, you know what I mean by just a deep friendship, but it started because you worked together, or you went to university together, or you had to work on a project before. Most friendships, most relationships start off on this kind of level where at least you are in this because you are in the same vicinity, because you are on the same kind of arena, you are friends by default. So this is just the associate level of friendship. The associate level of friendship. You have to acknowledge this level of friendship. Whenever you are in a place where you are thinking you don't have friends, the reality is you do. The problem is you haven't acknowledged the seed of friendship. This level of friendship is where you find the seed for friendship. Most people want healthy, growing, belly laughter kind of friendship without first acknowledging that everyone on that bus is your friend. Everyone at work is an associate, and this is the base level. It is often rare that you meet someone and kick off straight away. It doesn't always happen. Most times, the people that are going to be your friends, the people that are going to surround you with, they're going to be people. Is that meaning that a person is either your friend or your enemy, or could there be some neutrality? I'm assuming that's a good question. I think that basically this is the base level. I believe all things being equal, when you step into any arena, everyone is your friend. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying you have to assume it will be unhealthy for you to step into an arena and kind of assume somebody to be an enemy when you've not had a conversation with them. That is unhealthy. You step into a place and just because you've never spoken to someone, or you've only seen their post, or you don't like their picture, you decide that's my enemy. That's not a good way to live. Most people around you, when the Bible even talks about loving your neighbor, that word neighbor can also be translated friend. It's the same thing. It's loving that person. It's just recognizing. Remember, I'm talking of stages in friendship. Okay? I don't know if that answers your question, but if it doesn't, just make a note of it, and in the end, I'll come back to it. I really want to take any questions you have. If you have any questions, either post them in the comments and I'll try and answer them, or save them, and then I'll take that time to just really dig into that. So let me know if you, okay, fantastic. So basically, we want to start off on a healthy basis. What we're starting off is recognizing that at least this person is an associate, just by virtue of me being in an environment. Now, it does mean what you don't want to do. The reason it's important to understand this level of friendship is you don't want to marry an associate. You don't know them, right? You don't want to open a bank account with them. You don't know them. They might be friends, but you don't know them. I know Tinder said that you match, right? And you have the same... I know christianmingle.com said that you have the same, really say you have the same commonalities, you have the same features, you have the same, and that algorithm has projected a future for you. You've married them. You've married them just because you saw, but the reality is you don't know this person. The healthiest base level is that this person is just an associate. They're just somebody that you know and you have a responsibility to love in a certain way. Okay? The way that I love somebody that I just met is not the way that I love somebody who I've known for years. Everyone get what I mean? Okay? So them being your friend, you just know this person being your work colleague, yes, they are your friend, but it doesn't mean you tell them what your husband told you last night. It doesn't mean you tell them, all the details, because they might be friends, but they're just associate. You don't commit everything here just because we are friends. Let me know you get me. Particularly Instagram is really making me laugh, but Facebook, YouTube, let me know you're with me, okay? So just because we're friends at work, that doesn't mean I invite you into my marriage to have that. We are friends, but we're not friends like that, right? We're not enemies, we're friends, but not like that. It doesn't mean that I come to you for advice for spiritual matters. This is the problem with social media. Social media at best connects us as associates. But it doesn't mean just because somebody or your post asks your status is saying what's on your mind, it doesn't mean you should share. Because these people are not really your friend. You know, I know you have 3,000 people who are your friends on social media who are following you, but they're not really your friends. They are associates. So this is what I call stage one. This is what the Bible calls your neighbor. Okay? It is your neighbor. At this level, they're just your neighbors. And so if we will have, all right, let's have this one conversation on being in a single environment. I work as a Christian man of 40. I am in a GMP. I don't want to find any ladies such a where do I look? We'll look at dating later on. Okay, we'll look at dating later. I don't know that we have all the answers to those questions, but we'll look at dating. I'm just talking about friendship right now. Okay? We'll come to, or maybe when I come to the questions, you can bring that up again, and I'll try and answer that. But just hold that. It's a good question. All right. So if we're going to have good friendship, we need to know that this is the stage that we are at. Right. I meet somebody at work. You know, we have a great conversation. We work together. We work well together. That's great. It works. It's not time to, tell them your whole life story. Take things easy, because what happens is when you share too much and they use it a way that you didn't expect, that's where you get hurt, that's where you get burned, and that's where you start to develop the mindset that you really, when you step into an environment, you want everyone. And most people think that where we step in and everyone, we are kind of thinking firstly negatively in terms of don't trust anybody. No, that's not how to work. I don't think that's what God wants of us. He wants us to love our neighbor. And that word neighbor is the same as friends, okay? What the enemy does is that depending on your understanding of who you are, is that he starts to sow seeds that make you inadequate, makes you feel like you don't fit in or that you're weird because you don't really get along with everyone. The reality is I'm not supposed to get along with you, right? I'm not supposed to get along. I don't know you yet. We will get along on the level that we are at. I don't have to impress you. You don't have to impress me. We are just associates. We just met. Okay? And if you don't understand the level of friendship, then what happens is you start to deal with all these things and expect too much. Okay? Romans, if you look at Romans chapter 5, I'm just going to use some scripture just to show you what I mean. In Romans chapter 5, verse 1, it says, those who are strong ought to bear with the failings of the weak and not to please ourselves. And it says this, it says, each of us should please our neighbors for their good and to build them up. For Christ did not please himself, just as it is written, the insults of those who insult you have fallen on me. This word here that is used as neighbors is a type of friend, is friends as associates. Right? And what the scripture is saying is that your inclination, if all is well with us, if we are thinking right and behaving right and our minds are what it ought to be, then what we ought to do is when we show up, wherever we show up, we are looking to build people up. Okay? All right? So that's that word that is neighbors, that is friendship. Okay? Are you with me so far? All right, I'm going to talk about the second level. This is the next stage of friendship. The second level of second stage of friendship is where you have association plus loyalty. Please help me type that in the comment section. Association, associate who has been loyal. So you have this additional element of loyalty. I'm going to read from, again, I'm going to just refer to scripture to give you an example of this. 1 Kings chapter 5 verse 1. It says, when Hiram, the king of Tyre, heard that Solomon had been anointed to succeed his father, he sent his envoys to Solomon because he had always been on friendly terms with David. Okay, in this, in terms of this word here, that word friendly here is not just that of an associate. The term here is used in form of a political alliance, right? In form of some kind of political alliance, some kind of covenant obligation. This means that these guys have gone a little bit further from just being associates, but they've made a commitment to one another that demands loyalty. Okay? To be loyal to someone is to support them. It is to support them strongly or to be in allegiance with them. Stop expecting all your associates to be loyal to you. Did you get that? Not all of the people who are associates to you, who are associates, the guy on the bus, they're not going to be loyal to you. All right? Without loyalty, a relationship never moves from stage 1 to stage 2. A friendship will never graduate to the next stage if there is no loyalty. Our relationship is capped without loyalty. So here is what I'm saying. If you are at work, for instance, or you've moved to a new city, okay, shall I repeat that? I was saying the first stage of relationship, right, is association. The fact that we are in the same vicinity makes us associates. When you add loyalty to that, you go to the next level. The thing that takes your relationship from one level to another is the element of loyalty. It is impossible for a relationship to go from one stage to another without the element of loyalty. Relationships are capped when there is no loyalty. The Bible uses salt as a symbol of loyalty. Okay? Jesus said we are the salt of the earth. Salt is used to preserve. It is used to prevent bacteria from growing in something. It is used to, by the way, the scripture uses, references loyalty or uses salt as a symbol of loyalty. In 2 Chronicles chapter 13, verse 5. I'm throwing these scriptures at you because it's not necessarily a Bible study, but if you want to, you can go check them out yourself. In 2 Chronicles chapter 13 verse 5, he says, ought you not know that the Lord God of Israel gave the kingdom over to David forever, even to him and to his sons by a covenant of salt. If you study that out, what he's saying is God gave gave the kingdom to David and his sons forever on the basis of loyalty. There is a promise that he has made. Okay? So salt is a test of loyalty. Jesus talks about what salt does. And what that loyalty does, like salt, it preserves. Right? It preserves. It prevents bad bacteria from growing in an environment. You put salt in something, or you put loyalty in a friendship, it will preserve negative. It will preserve bacteria from growing. Loyalty can cleanse. Okay? Your loyalty in that relationship can preserve the relationship. Again, let's just stack this up, right? There are layers to this and there are loads of questions around all of these things. Remember, I'm not necessarily just talking about blind loyalty, right? Blind loyalty. I'm talking about if you are looking to build a healthy relationship, you can't be disloyal and demand that you are friends, that they are friends with you. Does that make sense? Sometimes we act like people owe us loyalty. Please help me type this in the comment section. Nobody owes you loyalty. Okay? Nobody owes you loyalty. Now, it's nice when people are loyal, but they don't owe you loyalty, especially if you haven't been loyal to them. Okay? Loyalty loyalty preserves relationships. Okay? Our relationships cannot develop it can't go past the level of being an associate if there is no loyalty, if there is if there is no loyalty involved. If you want to develop, if you want to make sure, whether it's a marriage, whether it's a friendship, whether it's if you want to develop a relationship and take it to the next stage, then what you need is a level of loyalty. Okay, a level of loyalty. Colossians chapter 4. Colossians chapter 4. I want to take some questions, so I want to go through these 3 stages, and then I want to take questions. If you're on Instagram, there is a question mark thing that you can use to ask questions. And I know that as I'm speaking, I'm not covering everything. I'm just kind of dealing with the very sort of foundation blocks that are necessary to just build on. Okay? Colossians chapter 4 verse 6 says this. It says, let your conversation always be full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. That's what loyalty looks like. It just seasons. It seasons things. Let's say you start a new job. Everyone in that place becomes your friends by association, okay? However, you find that you have better relationship with those who speak to you gracefully, with those who are loyal to you, those who support you, those who speak to you like they are on your side. That's what loyalty at this level looks like. I'm not saying, they work with you so they're going to kill someone for you. That's not what, you get what I mean? No, I don't know why I use that example, but that's extreme, right? But it's unhealthy for you to expect that level of loyalty. You're not there yet, okay? But the way they speak to you, the way they invest you, they kind of speak to you like they are on your side, like they are building you up. That's what loyalty looks like on this level. And they edify you. They don't condemn you. So because of this loyalty they're showing you, guess what's going to happen naturally? Your relationship will deepen. Right? You just feel like they see you. They hear you. They get you a little bit more. Right? They're not, the other people are not unkind to you, but this one just kind of sees where you are. You will run your friends away if you are not loyal. Okay? If you don't if you're not invested in the interests of people, that's what loyalty looks like. It looks like a dependence, not a dependence, an investment in people, in their interests, in their personality, in who they are. Loyalty is built over time, but from day one, it is possible to show loyalty to someone you meet. Everyone get what I mean? Let me insert this here. So real loyalty is built over time, but on day one, it is possible to show loyalty to the person you meet. When you meet someone and you validate them, and you are kind and you are gracious, that's loyalty. There is there are just like in most things, there are degrees of loyalty. There is the degree of loyalty where it is that based on where we are, I see you, I hear you, I think you are important, I am fighting your corner. I never forget this, right? I'll tell you a story. I just moved from so when I graduated from university, I started working. I used to work for the bank Santander a long time ago. Whilst I was studying, I was working for that for for that bank. This was whilst I lived in Bradford. And when I graduated, I went full time, and then actually decided I was actually going to switch to a smaller company and a growing company that has now really just blown up. It's really huge now. So I switched to this company. Long and short is that I switched departments a couple of times. And so the first time I worked in project management, she might be on here. I had a wonderful boss. I had a wonderful boss who was just a brilliant woman. She's really good friends. And so I remember the reason I valued this boss was one day, one of my colleagues, this is my friend really, he was making a joke. He said something like, and I know him, and it's the kind of banter we have. And so I wasn't offended, but something happened where he said something like, oh, Chido is going to do this, or he's going to almost mess up your department in some way. I'm just paraphrasing. I can't remember the exact phrase. But I never forget how this, my new boss, who had just employed me, right? This, my new boss, defended me. She wasn't friends with him. I was friends with him. And she heard what he said about me in jest. Her not knowing our relationship, the way she stood up for me and spoke up so much for me, in my mind, we moved from just being associates. There was a level of loyalty that she demonstrated in that moment that in turn bound me to her. Everyone get me, right? So it's just what we do, at that stage. It would be really weird if she sold her house and decided she was going to buy me a house. That's not the kind of loyalty we're expecting. What I'm saying is, in your day-to-day relationships with people, if you learn to see people, stand up for people, if you learn to defend those that you can defend in the way that you can defend them, your relationship will move from just being an associate to being associate plus loyalty. It's usually the foundation of great relationships. The reason most of us bind with other people is somehow they stood up for you. Somehow they fought your corner. Come on, has anyone else, someone on Instagram has had that kind of experience? Have you had that kind of experience before, where someone you kind of knew just really spoke well of you or stood up for you, and it just made your relationships a little bit better? If you don't defend or stand up for the people that are around you, you will never build solid relationship. Loyalty is built over time, but from day one, it is possible to show loyalty to those people that you meet. And that's our responsibility. We show loyalty. We show just by speaking up for me, she showed loyalty to me. Now I had to stand her down and say, don't worry about it. It was just a joke and all of that. And she got it. But that moved me so much, and I never forgot that. Okay? It is so important. Stand up. Someone says my wife when we were just friends. That's important. So it's relationships start to go to another degree of friendship when it is seasoned with salt, when loyalty is put in the mix. Okay? Proverbs 18 verse 24 talks about the friend that sticks closer than a brother. It's talking about loyalty. The degree of loyalty that this person has shown is even stronger than a family bond. Okay? So the question you have to ask, the question I want to ask you today is, how loyal are you? Are you supportive of those who are around you? Or are you critical? I'm not asking you to go give them your blood. I'm not asking you to, give them your kidney. Which one is it that you can give? Your kidney or your liver? That's not what we're asking. But do you see them? How supportive of you are there? Or are you just critical of those who are around you? Do they even know you're supportive? This is the other thing. Because sometimes in our minds, we are supportive of who they are, but unless they know it, unless you are demonstrating it, it's not as effective as it needs to be. Are you listening to me today? It doesn't do them any good. So our responsibility is to be on the lookout. When you show up anywhere, show yourself friendly. Be on the lookout. Have this healthy, unless people give you reason to think that to make themselves your enemy. Just assume that everyone on the base level is on the basis of being an associate, they are your friends. If you are interested in taking relationships to the next level, then you need a sprinkling of loyalty, or you need, if you want to really take it to the next level, the more loyalty is exchanged between two parties. Right? The more loyalty is exchanged between two parties, the more that relationship is seasoned, the more it begins to grow, the more it becomes better. If you get me so far, give me a thumbs up in the comment section. Okay? If you're with me so far, I want to see that. Give me a thumbs up in the comment section. So we have friends as associates. We have friends, associates plus loyalty. Right? Plus loyalty. And this starts to take your relationship to the next level. Right? Why? Do you know why many people get into trouble? Many people meet an associate and think this is particularly in the world that we are in. This is why I'm talking about this. In the world that we are in, many people meet associates and commit to an associate like they are committing to someone who has been loyal to them. And the problem is that when you commit to somebody, to an associate, if you commit to a level 1 friendship, like they are level 3, I give you time. It's only a matter of time before you get hurt. It's only a matter of time. Many people are getting really hurt because you don't understand the levels of friendship, and because there is a misunderstanding and lack of understanding about the levels of friendship. You are committing too soon. You met this person yesterday and you're going to get married to them in 2 weeks' time. There's going to be one person on here that says, you know what, it worked for me. Praise God for you. But let me tell you, for every one person, there's probably another 100 who got hurt. So you might be the exception, the person who it worked for. But I know most people get hurt. Don't let Hollywood deceive you. Come on, are you with me today? The third stage of friendship is where you have an associate who has been loyal over a period of time, plus now there is affection. Help me type associates plus loyalty plus affection. Associates plus loyalty plus affection. This is the kind of relationship that was between David and Saul. Sorry, David and Jonathan. Right? If we use scripture, the kind of relationship that was between David and Jonathan is a level of relationship where first they were associates. Jonathan knew of him. Then there was a level of loyalty that David showed the family, right? Which then opened up a conversation between Joshua and David. And the Bible talks about how as they had that conversation, Jonathan, they became affectionate for one another. This level of friendship gets to the place of affection where there is a strong affinity. Affection has been added. It is a terrible thing. Let me just say this up front. It's a terrible thing when you're in stage 1 and you're already catching feelings. You know it's recipe for being hurt. You're in stage 1, you don't know their intentions, you don't know, and you're catching feelings. You've married them off. You've already decided how many night outs you're going to have. Hello, people. Are you with me so far? Okay. So this level, I would say, it is important that you are not investing affection in someone who hasn't demonstrated loyalty. Come on, write that down because that's important. That will save you grief. It's important you don't invest affection because you know that, I know people say you fall in love. Let me tell you, smart people don't fall in love. Smart people choose where they love. Smart people don't just drop into love. They make a decision as I'm going to love. Because there is the falling in love, but staying in love requires a decision. You know, the Bible talks about setting your affection. Your affection is not your boss. You can set your affection or not set your affection. Sometimes, let me talk to you Christians, sometimes, particularly when there is some level of lust, for us as Christians, do you know what we do? You validate your lustfulness by adding affection. Because at least if I'm not just thinking of them as a sexual object and there is a level of love, then I can validate what I'm feeling. Y'all are not gonna say amen to me right now. Or you know the truth. What you're feeling is not love. You're calling it love because it validates all the other things that are happening in your body. Let me drink some water. Hello. Where are the Christians? They've all gone quiet. Don't invest in people who haven't demonstrated loyalty. Yeah, I know I'm talking about dating and stuff. Oftentimes what will happen is you know, I can tell when you've invested more than you should, right? Because this person is treating you like crap. Not just in dating relationship, but in friendships. You've invested much more than you should. And that's why you say stuff like, but I love them. You love what? Do you know what love is? Love is an investment. Anyway, I don't know where. I'll come back to that. I'll come back to that another time. Okay? So it is associates plus loyalty plus affection. I believe it's in that order. I don't think you should be setting your affection on someone who hasn't demonstrated loyalty. Right? You shouldn't be setting your affection on someone who hasn't demonstrated loyalty. You shouldn't even be trying to show loyalty to someone who doesn't even have you as an associate. Okay, I don't want to take it too deep. All right? But this is the level of friendship. This is the level of friendship. It's a level of friendship where affection is now involved. This is the type that is developed when loyalty has been shown over time. You know, again, if you are healthy in your mind, if you are thinking well, if you have a good outlook on life, the reality is when somebody consistently demonstrates different layers or levels of loyalty, what will happen is that you start to develop affection for them. Right? You start to develop affection for them. It's not possible to get to this stage of relationships if you skip loyalty and go from associate to affection. It's only a matter of time before you have problems. All right? You can't expect to receive affection from someone you haven't been loyal to. I think you should write that one down too. Stop expecting to receive affections when you haven't been loyal to them. You haven't demonstrated your loyalty to them. Affections will develop when you're loyal to your friend. Okay? Let me say this. If your spouse has someone who is more loyal to them than you are to them, it is possible for them to demonstrate to develop or to invest. If they don't watch themselves, it is possible for them to invest their affection in the wrong person. Okay? So be loyal in your relationships. Add loyalty to your relationship. These are the 3 stages of of friendships that I want to talk about. Okay? These are the 3 stages. I'm going to leave it there because I want to take some questions. Have you learned something so far? Have you learned something? I want to take some of the questions that came in earlier. If you have some of those questions, please just post them in the comment section. So just remember, the point I'm making is simple, is this. I'm going to take questions now. and deal with this. The point I'm making is that there are stages of friendships. There is a first stage of friendships, which is just that everyone around you is your neighbor, and you are expected, if you are going to operate in a healthy way, to love your neighbor as yourself. This is just the people that are around you. There is a second level of friendship, which is loyalty, where there is an element of loyalty that has been demonstrated. Remember this, loyalty is on a scale, right? Loyalty is on a scale. Now, just because that my boss stood up for me, that doesn't mean that I owe her my life. That what she did was loyal, but it wasn't loyal like that. You get what I mean? So what she did was loyal, but there are grades of loyalty. And over a period of time, if your relationship is going to grow, then there needs to be increasing levels of loyalty in that relationship. And the final one is when affection is added to the mix, then you now have a relationship that can go in so many different directions. All right. So I'll take this question. Says, how do you deal with expired loyalty in a friendship? Now, you have to understand this. Your relationship is capped, right? Your relationship is capped if loyalty is capped. Wherever your loyalty stops, that's where your relationship stops. It is important that you are not now. Remember, I'm talking about friendships, right? If this friend is your spouse, it's a whole different conversation. What we need to do is to unblock whatever is there to increase the level of loyalty. So what you've got to understand, the question is, how do you deal with expired loyalty in a friendship? I'm assuming you mean that they were loyal before, but right now there is no loyalty being demonstrated. We are grateful for that, but the reality is, in order for my relationship to continue to grow, there needs to be a consistent exchange of loyalty. Otherwise, the reality is my relationship stops at the place where you or I was loyal last. Does that make sense? So if you want to, it depends on what you want to do with that relationship. If you want to revitalize the relationship, then it does require that you invest loyalty in that relationship. Whatever you want to see, you need to invest in that relationship. If it's a healthy relationship, eventually what will happen is loyalty will come back to you. It is just the law of life. It is sowing and reaping. He who wants to have friends must show himself friendly. So if there is a blockage, or if there is no more loyalty, or the loyalty in this relationship was from 20 years ago and really doesn't stand the test of time for what you need now, we will never forget. I'm not in touch with my boss anymore, but we're friends. However, I can't expect that. We haven't been in an environment where I need to be loyal to her, or where she needs to be loyal to me. So our relationship, as great as it is and as wonderfully, and when we catch up, it's healthy. It is capped. There is a limit to that. If I want to revitalize that, then there needs to be an investment in me. There needs to be we need to be loyal. We need to invest in one another. So if it's stuck, then what we need to do then is work on investing in those relationships. Okay, so I hope that helps. And the question is, are they investing back? It's supposed to always be a two-way street. Joseph says, Eros is not love. This is carnal or sexualized love. Absolutely. Love is selfless, called agape, is a reality of a Christian life. Choose to love when we are mature. Today's you think love is Eros based. Absolutely. Eros is just your body. It's when you involve your body. If Eros is done right, it is what happens when you involve your physical body in the expression of a deeper kind of love. But the problem is, most of the time, the deeper kind of love is not there, and there is the physical expression of, and that's why it's bankrupt, because it's not based. It's like fiat. It's like money that is not backed up by real gold. It can take you so far, but at some point it's going to fail. Okay, so this question, thank you for posting these. There were some of you who posted questions through my stories on Instagram. Please repost them, because I'm live now and I didn't write them down before. So if you can repost them like Debster has done, that would be wonderful. This one says, how do you discern attacks against friendships versus friendships that now that has to now respectfully end or change? Okay, I think yes, Storge is a brotherly love. Okay, or family. Sorry, I think it's family. It's phileo that is brotherly. Okay, so this question says, how do you discern attacks against a friendship as opposed to friendships that have now respectfully ended or that needs to change? This is what I would say. Every challenge in your friendship is potentially an attack. Okay? So every challenge in your friendship or your relationship is potentially an attack. So the best way to deal with it is, every time there is a challenge, it is approaching it like it's not the person. There is an attack. Okay, now you can say it's demonic, you can say it's whatever, however you want to analyze that. But the reality is, every time you bump heads, every time you clash, every time things are not working out, it has the potential to completely break down the relationship. I'm assuming that that's what you mean by the attack. I think that the real question, when you are at loggerheads, when things are not working, I always ask this question, particularly when people are dating or even married couples, and they will come and they will explain, this is what's happened, this is what they did, this is what they did, and this other person will say, this is what they did, this is what they did, this is what's going on, and this one would say, this is what happened, and it hurt me, this man, they cursed my mama, and they cursed my grandmother, and this one would say, they didn't respect me, blah, 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 and they are. So after I hear all of that, here is a question I always ask: what do you want to do now? Because it is what you want to do in the midst of this attack that determines whether this relationship will either continue or it will end. It is the next steps that you take that will determine. So the problem in my mind is not even the attacks. It is your approach. Because when two people agree concerning anything, if these two people, regardless of the level of the attack, if these two people agree, no, it's you and me against this attack, they will bring it down. Are you listening to me? So to me, the question was not what went on. I've seen relationships where devastating things have happened, sort of great betrayal of trust has happened, but because they decided to genuinely invest in making the relationship work, they did. I've also seen where that has happened and they couldn't. And so the question in the face of the attack is, number one, what do you want? Number two, what does your friend want? And if both of you can answer that question and see eye to eye in what you want and be genuinely committed to what it takes to get what you want, then you can always come back from those things. I don't know if that answered your question, Debster. Am I pronouncing your name right as well? Let me know. Okay? Are you guys with me? Okay. So fantastic. So oftentimes I believe a relationship comes to an end not because of what happened, but because of what you two decide to do about what happened. right? It's how you approach what happens, what you are, what number one, what you decide to do. Sometimes it is what it is that you can do. Oftentimes, a relationship has to end because some people don't have the capacity to love you. Okay, I know we don't like to hear that, but sometimes people don't have the capacity to treat you right. You know, we are in such a broken state as human beings that sometimes, even despite our best efforts, we don't have the capacity to love right. And if, particularly for those of us who are believers, if we don't learn to draw from God, to draw from God, the challenge is fantastic. The challenge is, if you don't learn to draw from God, real love, the reality is at some point in your relationship, you will run out of patience. At some point in your relationship, your kindness bank will be empty. And this is why I do believe in a healthy relationship with God, because when your patience bank is empty, what you need to do is to better run to the God who is long suffering. He never runs out. And what he can do is deposit in you a bit of his patience, which you can then sow into your relationship, which can then produce. But the reality is, sometimes, even when I've drawn patience down, it's either the other person is not receiving, something is not quite right. And the point I'm making is that there are so many reasons why relationships end. And one of the things that we have to do with people is to stay gracious. Stay gracious. This thing is complex. Okay? So someone says, can you call someone who isn't a child of God a close friend? Due to the Holy Spirit in you conflicting with characteristics. I think so. I think you can call, I think people, again, friendships are on different levels. Friendships are on different kinds of degree. Of course, I think that some people don't need to be, they don't need to be born again to be your friends. Obviously it's better when you see eye to eye, but that's the thing I'm saying, that sometimes we expect too much from people. If they don't yet believe, then they're on a journey. I think that don't throw away your friend because right now there is a place. Now, it's different if that person constantly disrespects something that you carry very well in your heart, something that weighs heavy on you. Then you have to question, if somebody doesn't value my opinion, my faith, if they don't give weight to this area of my life, then the real reason for not calling them a friend will not be because they're Christian or non-Christian. The real reason will be that this person doesn't recognize that this thing is so important to me that they're not even willing to respect it. In friendships, we are respectful. Okay? Let me know if that answers your question. Okay, I got another question that was about great flags and red flags, right? Great flags and red flags. I'll do this about friendships, right? I'll do this one about friendships, and I think it applies to dating as well, right? Great flags. You know what I mean by great red flags? There was this thing going. I'm assuming that hopefully, Manu, I hope you're on here. I think you sent that question through. I think a red flag for me is when someone doesn't, this is whether or not you are, we're talking about dating relationship or friend, just a platonic relationship. I think when a person does not dignify who you are, right? When a person does not dignify you, when they don't show you, they don't give you the dignity as a person, they cannot be your friend. Okay, that's a red flag. When someone is self-obsessed, that's a red flag. When someone, when they are not loyal to you, keep them as associates, that's a red flag. Some people are incapable, or some people just don't want to be. This is why everyone can't be your friend. Having real friendship is expensive. Does that make sense? The depth of friend, to have real, if someone is really going to be your friend, it costs. It's emotionally, expensive. It costs. So everyone can't be your friend. Just because they're your followers, that doesn't mean they're your friend to that degree. They might be associates, but not necessarily friends like that. So a red flag is someone who doesn't respect you, someone who doesn't show you any kind of dignity, someone who is not willing to be loyal, right? In fact, I'll just go to 1 Corinthians. Let me just do this right now, actually. 1 Corinthians 13. Because there is a whole list, right? And this is what I was explaining to my daughter and saying to her, you can't be calling someone who's rude to you your friend. Because love is not rude. Okay? If someone is being rude to you, respect them, the reality, don't make an enemy of them, but keep them as an associate. And as an associate, it just means that I'm not calling you to my house. I'm not calling you into my inner chambers. I'm not calling you into the place where things matter. Out here, we belong. We will be friends here. We will talk here, but we will keep things at a certain level. Okay, so red flags is somebody who is being rude to you, someone who is not respectful, someone who can't be patient for you. These are traits of friendship. Love is patient, so friends are patient. Love is not rude, so friends are not rude. Love is not conceited, it's not arrogant, it's not inflated with pride. And so friends are not. Okay? Love bears up under anything. They can't even stand anything about you. Not invited to the barbecue. That's right. Not everyone needs to come to your barbecue. Some people, you just need to leave them at work. Okay? Stop trying to be friends with everyone like that. Some people are just associates. Keep them as that. Until things change, right? If someone rejoices, verse 6, 1 Corinthians 13:6 says, love does not rejoice at injustice and unrighteousness, but rejoices when right and truth prevail. If someone is rejoicing when you fall, that's not your friend. That's a red flag. And just flip it the other way, and then you would have the great flags. Okay. Okay, so we do have some questions here. Fantastic. This one says, fantastic. What about prophecies about marriage? I need to know what your question. Yeah, so this one came in. It would be great to know what the question is about prophecies and marriage. I'm assuming you mean when somebody says this is the person you're going to marry, what does that mean? I'd like to know what the question. I've seen people where this works, but let me tell you, prophecy does not keep a marriage together. It is actively loving. Don't marry someone just because some prophet said you will. I'm not doubting the prophet, but even where there is a prophetic word over who you're going to marry, the reality is that love is an investment. Love is a daily decision that you have to make. Just because God said you will be with somebody or this is the person for you, that doesn't mean that they will end up being the person for you. All right. So if there are any more specific questions you have about that, I'd be happy to look at that. This one says, how would you apply the verse about wolves in Christian clothing to apply to Christian friendships? Absolutely. I think this is also why that's a good question. This is talking about wolves in sheep's clothing. I say you need to be a fruit inspector. Okay? You need to be a fruit inspector. I think I posted this some days ago. There is a difference between, I see a difference between faith and trust, right? I see a difference between faith and trust. faith is me believing, because that's what it takes to love. Is me believing the best, right? So when you come across someone, whether they're Christian or not, a real loving person will start off on this basis. I'm going to believe the best. That is the scriptural thing to do. That is the loving thing to do. But over a period of time, right, you don't trust everyone you have faith in. It is as you inspect the fruit, is as you inspect what they produce, that you can determine whether or not they are sheep or they are wolves. So I say, just give it time. Okay? Give it time. The reality is, if you're going to really walk in love, there will be you expose yourself to being hurt. You expose yourself to being disappointed. And all that the disappointment is telling you is that this person, the Bible talks about how an untrustworthy friend is like a broken ankle. In other words, when you lean on a broken ankle, it hurts. The pain is telling you, don't lean on this again. So if you want to, how do we deal with wolves in sheep clothing? Inspect the fruit. And when you see the fruit, Christian doesn't mean anything. It's the fruit, right? It's the fruit that you are producing that matters. Inspect the fruit. Somebody put it this way: when people show you who they are, believe them. Okay? So if you keep your eyes on the fruit, and you understand people are in different places, no matter what they say, just because we're Christians, that doesn't mean we're going to be best friends. Right? Just because we are believers together, that doesn't mean we're going to inspect the fruit. I have friends who are closer to me than my blood family. It is not because I have anything against my blood family, but it is because of the fruit that these friends have shown in my life is more telling than what those from my family have done. Again, it's not that my family don't love me, but there is a level of loyalty, a level of fruit that this person has shown. So always investigate the fruit. Okay? Let me know if that answers your question. Ex Dominica, let me know if that answered your question, and if you have a follow-up question, just ask and I will see if that worked for you. Let's see, what's the next question? Okay, this one says, what are some vital topics to agree on before moving into marriage? I'll talk about this when we do dating, but just to give you something, I think, where are you going to live? Right? Where are you going to live? I'm not going to make it deep. Where are you going to live? I think, do they believe what you believe? This is where the question of faith. So whilst I might be close friends with somebody who is not born again, I probably won't marry someone who isn't born again. You get what I mean? Because now we're getting to a different level of relationship. I can afford to be friends with you if you are not saved, but it's too expensive for me to be married to you if you're not saved. Okay, so those are two different levels. I can afford to be friends with you if our business is just, we're both investing £1,000 in the business. But when we start talking about £1 million, the level of relationship has changed because the investment is different. Okay, so it's, what do you believe? Do they believe what you believe? It's questions about, are you attracted to one another? Is there, I agree on that. Have a conversation. Most Christians, when they're dating, I don't know if they, these days I think it's different, but because Christians are wild these days. But sometimes we can just be in a place where we just be talking about Zephaniah and Nehemiah and never get to the place where you ask and you actually investigate what you feel for one another. Okay, so these are some vital things. Talk about money. How much debt do you have? Right? How many credit cards? Who are you owing? If they don't have any credit card, what about loan sharks? right? How much money, how much are you earning? What is your expectation? Are you expecting me to pay the bills, or are we going to pay together? You have so much to talk about, right? And yeah, talk about money. Money is a big one. What about children? Ask them about their family. You know, was their father hands on? You know, if you ask a guy or a woman, if you ask expectations are often not in what we say, but in usually it's in how people grew up. So let me give you an example. If you ask a guy, you can ask a guy, are you going to support me? You know, are you going to help me around the house and support me in our marriage? And he will say, yes, of course I will. He loves you. He'll say, yes, I will. And you can make the assumption that that means what you're thinking it means. A better thing to do is ask him or investigate, look out for. This is why it's good if you go to his house, you know, his parents' house, ask about his parents. How did it work in their homes? Because oftentimes a man or a woman, the image of what we're going to do in our married homes has been already formulated. I don't want to go into this. Has already been formulated in your home. Let me say this, and I'll come back to this next week. But hopefully this will get you to come. I believe that everybody knows who they're going to marry. They just don't recognize them yet. Inside every single one of us, you know, your parents, the presence of your father and your mother, or their absence. Someone says go into it. The presence of your father or your mother, or even their absence, deposits on the inside of us an image of what you are looking for. Some of you know this is true because you have met certain people. They ticked all the boxes, but there was just something in you that just says this is not the one. You can't put your hand on it, but you just knew it wasn't the one because there is an image that is imprinted in your heart. Okay? By the way your father treated you, by the way your mother responded to you, by the way your father treated your mother. All of these things were building up in you an image of who you are going to marry. This is not even yet talking about the experiences that you have had. Right? And so most people, even we might not be able to articulate it. This is why if you ask most people, they would say, how do you know the one? And this is one of the questions that came. How do you know the one that you're going to marry? Most married people will just say, I just knew. And the reality is that there is an imprint. This is why parents, it's important. If you're a father, take your daughter on a date. You know, if you're a father, make sure you treat her well. Do you know what I'm doing when I listen to her, when I defend her, when I speak up for her, when I don't shut her down? Inside of her, I am building an image of the man she's going to marry. So when she shows up to university or to school and a man shuts her down, she just knows this is not the one. Or she would have to violate her conscience to choose someone that doesn't treat her right. Because in the conversations, mothers, with your sons, in the conversations you have, in the way you respect him, in the way you give weight to what he's saying, in the way you treat him, in the way you challenge him, you are building and depositing a seed of who they are going to marry. And the time, once they see them, they will recognize them. Did you hear that? So the problem is just recognizing who they are. That's the challenge you have. It is recognizing who they are. I believe so many, let me move on from this. I believe so many of you walked away from the one. Now, I don't think that there is just one person. But there were so many of you who have walked away. And the problem is when you have been hurt so many times, or when you've been exposed to all kinds, it messes everything up. There is just so much. There is, when God gives instruction for living, he's not trying to stop our fun. He really is very smart. We'll talk about dating. So for the one who asked this question, I hope this answers a little bit before moving into marriage. Okay, let's see what is another question. We've done great flags and red flags. How do you know this is the one to marry? I've given you a little bit of that. Say cancel. This one says, how do you respectfully talk about intimacy and sex in marriage? As a Christian, it seems taboo. This is a good question. Shall we talk about this now? Should we wait for next week? You are taking me into next week. I'm sure we'll have more questions. I'll just answer this whilst I have you here. How do you respectfully talk about intimacy and sex in marriage? Number one, talk about it in public. Right? Don't talk about it whilst you're watching Netflix, because you will chill. And then it's going to be Netflix and chill. So don't be by yourself, be talking about, let's talk about sex, baby. No, don't do that. Don't do that. So talk about it in public. Maybe even in a restaurant, maybe in a public place, in a place where your clothes can't accidentally fall off. Right? Because both of you are already feeling hot. Hopefully, if you're in a healthy relationship, you are feeling one kind of way. The reality is it's there. So talk about it in public. Be in a public place. Go on a double date, and your friends can be over there while you're talking, in a place where nothing can happen, right? Where people know you. Right? But approach it. Now, I think it's always wise that you have a great relation. This is not first date conversation. This is not associate level conversation. Right? I've given you these levels of friendship because, it will be inappropriate to have that kind of conversation with someone who is an associate level friendship. Right? For you to be really trying to have that conversation, hopefully you've been dating. Hopefully there's been demonstrations of loyalty. Hopefully there is also affection in the mix. You can't have that conversation whilst you're still dating, and it's just, you're just having a conversation. It's not, it's not the time. It wouldn't be appropriate. But when the relationship has progressed, I think we're all grown. You will know when you have progressed. And I think it is at that stage that you can have the honest conversation. And I think it's having a conversation to say, this is how I'm feeling. I'm feeling a certain kind of way. Right? I'm feeling a certain kind of way about you. I don't think we should, hang out tonight because I don't know. I need saving. Just have a conversation. Just be honest. Yeah, just be honest, or just start the conversation by expressing how you feel, right? It is good that at least they know that you are attracted to them and they are attracted to you. Is this making any sense? Yeah, it is, it is in the times when you almost, I said I was going to be real here. Every relationship, every Christian relationship, everyone who's trying, who's abstaining. In fact, one of the things I ask people, okay, let me give you a good time. One of the things I ask people when I'm doing marriage counseling is I ask them directly. It's a funny question. I ask them directly, have you had sex? Oh God, it throws everyone. I'm yet to see anyone who's cool when I ask that question. Is have you had sex? The point of that question is, some people think I need to give the correct answer. So it's the point of that question is to find out if there is any kind of attraction. If you say no, then my question is why? Right? Is it that you're not attracted to each other? And if you're not attracted to each other, should you be getting married? Or is it that there are restraints in place? Right? So the reality is, most relationships will, even with your best attempts, there will be times when you almost push the line, right? Whatever your boundaries are, whether you said, we're never going to kiss before we get married, or whether you're talking, we're not going to do anything sexual, whatever, you know what the scripture says. Let's not, okay? I believe you understand. So you will know the times when you had to say, okay, we have to stop. I think that's a good time to have that conversation. Well, Jesus, not in private, around that time. So I don't know if this is making sense. So let's say you went home with them. I want to be as practical as possible, okay? So let's say both of you went home together, right? You went home after church. You thought, we're just gonna cook, we're just gonna chill. There's friends and family around, and you're just chilling. My wife is laughing at me, and you're just chilling. You're just chilling together, and it almost happened. You know what I mean? What almost happened, and you caught it in time, and you decided, okay, we have to go outside, because that's what you need to do. You need to get up and you need to go for a walk. On that walk, that's a good place to have that conversation. Or you called your friend in that, and your friend came and joined you, to come and sit in the middle so nothing happens. This chat is quiet. You guys have left me. Are you guys still there? Anybody still there? Just checking. Anybody still there? Oh my goodness. So it is at that point I recommend that you both know what you almost did. You both know when you almost crossed the line. That's a good time to have the conversation. Yeah, don't be deep about it. Just talk about what almost happened, right? And have the conversation. Now, I don't recommend you almost someone is asking what almost happened. Don't make me say it again. So that's the point where that's the time to what you almost did. Now, I don't think that you should have particularly heated conversations about sex. I think that don't start describing what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. That's probably not healthy. It's not helping you. It's not helping you, particularly if you're abstaining, which you should be, right? It's not helping you. What you could have a conversation about is, you can have a conversation about, gauge interest. Okay, is this helping? Does that question let me know if I'm not gonna say who asked the question, because I think it's a great question, but let me know if I answered by giving me everyone just give me a thumbs up in the comment section if my answer just made a little sense. I want to be as helpful as possible. I don't want to be philosophical with my responses to these questions. So I think that okay, fantastic. I think that it's important to just talk about it, right? Just talk about it where you're at. Okay, and be honest about what's happening. Many people are dishonest Christians. You're dishonest by when you deny the urges that you have. Having the urges in themselves is not the crime. There is nothing wrong with that. It is healthy that you have the urges. It is what you do about those urges and how. And so talk about the urges that you have. And then as you go, it should provide a healthy environment to explore it. Anyway, I'll move on from that, because I'm even getting hot just asking questions. Just answering the question. I'm feeling like, whew, it's hot in here. Anyway, leave it alone. What's the next question? We've looked at red flags. How do you know that this is the one to marry? I've kind of talked about that. If there's any other questions, let me know. How do you embrace the idea of marriage for the near future? So the question I'd want to know is are you what is the near future? Is this somebody who has proposed to you, or someone who or are you just thinking about generally embracing the idea, or are you getting, is it that you're engaged and you're asking, how do we prepare? In some ways I feel that it is Getting married is an act of faith, right? It's an act of faith. It's a bit like having a child. When we had our first child. In fact, we have 3 children, and for every single one of them, it doesn't matter how many books you read about what to do about children. The reality is having a child is different to reading a book about having a child. So I'll say this up front about marriage. Of course you can prepare. Of course you can think about it and prepare your mind. But I will say this, it's probably more intense than you thought or than you think. Any married people in the house, just give me a thumbs up in the comment section. Or even, it's just like when you think about having children, it's probably more intense. Most people think about having children and they think about the cuteness, they think about the giggling baby, they think about all the stuff that we like about cute babies. But the reality is it comes with some other stuff. It is more intense. Now, what's also amazing is that the love and the good things are even better than you imagine. Does that make sense? So it's all more intense than you imagine. So set yourself put yourself in a place where you understand that it's probably more intense than you thought. And I think it's bracing yourself. And I think that the best thing you can do is, apart from all the other things which we can look at next week when we look at dating, is I think that the most important thing to do is realize that God will have to help you. Yeah? The only way that we can truly love is from the onset, develop the understanding that if you are going to have a successful marriage, it will be because God helped you. Okay? I think that's the biggest thing. If you go in realizing, one of the prayers I started to pray before I got married is, God, teach me or help me love my wife. And I think that was Holy Spirit inspired, because even as I get married, even as I'm married, and been married for 13 years now, this year, I realize that is an important prayer to pray, because without the help of God, I don't think I know what to do. So it's that prayer, God help me to be married. And you want someone who understands that it's going to take the help of God to really produce the kind of love that you want to produce in your marriage. Let me know if that answers your question. Nubianella, give me a thumbs up so I know that gives you some answers, or you can re-ask the parts that I didn't cover, just re-ask them. This one says, I have had one girlfriend, every age 22, 23. I've been single since then, and I'm 40, still very fit and young looking, but want to know if it's too late to find someone for marriage and for that life. It's never too late. Marriage is not a competition. It's never late. It's not about, it's never late. Now, I think it depends on if you are, of course, there are things like the biological clock that if you wanted to have children, particularly this is for women, that is usually the thing that influences sort of the timing of when people want to get married, and I understand that. But if we put that aside, I don't think that you should ever put yourself under pressure to get married by any certain time, because it's not a competition. I don't think, Paul talks about it, and he says, I don't think you should get married. Paul said that. Paul discouraged people from getting married because it's an investment. It's a heavy investment. It's a good investment if you have what it takes, but don't feel like you have to rush into it. It's the goal of life is not marriage. The goal of life is not marriage. Yeah, there are other things to do with life. I think it is unfortunate that society and the way that we live and the world that we live, and even the biological clock, it makes us rush into or think about it is a weighty thing, right? And even when they do the marriage vows, they say it must not be entered into lightly. So what you're after, if you don't find the right person, please don't get married. There's no need to rush it, right? Now I know I'm a married man, and there are needs and there are all kinds of things that you are considering, but I'm just telling you. So yeah, I agree. I don't think it's too late. I think it's, if you find the right person, the reality is the right relationship with the right person can really be amazing, and make such a huge difference for your life. Someone says it's for the big boys. It is indeed. You want to bamba? You want to play with the big boys? You hear some people say that if you are not married by a certain time, then there's a delay on your life. I don't think that that's true. I think that that's unkind. I don't think that that's true. Life is not about marriage. The goal of life is not marriage. Singleness is not a disease to be cured from. Being single is not a disease you need to be cured from. Okay? All right. Someone say, any basic tips for being a good friend? Absolutely. I think the 2 steps that we've talked about, just learn to see people well, right? Learn to recognize, learn to see people, everyone around you. The Bible talks about loving your neighbor as yourself. It's talking about loving your friend. Develop the ability to see people around you. Learn people's names, right? This is just stage 1 level of friendship, right? When you show up at work, do you know the guy who, the receptionist? Have you learned their name? Learn their names. Yeah, my wife is helping me in the comment section. Vanessa just said, be the kind of person who you would want to be friends with. That is a good point. Yeah, it's exactly what the Bible talks about. Love your neighbor as yourself. So I think make it a basic point to see people, love people, and remember the point we made about loyalty being added to the mix. It's like salt. Be kind, stand up for people, defend people, see people. If someone is upset, do what you can at your level, right? At your level to if you can give them a hug, and if it's appropriate to do so, do that. I'm just saying it's not as complex to be a good friend. It's just seeing, and then is that loyalty, right? Is that loyalty. I think if you recognize, if you mix those 2, just the idea of loyalty being, I'm going to defend you, I'm going to speak up for you, I'm going to stand up for you, that by itself will make the relationship amazing. Okay, I don't know if I know my wife is watching. If you can come and join me, I want my wife to join me, but it's not been, it's not with the babies, it's not always easy to do that for both of us to be on. So if you're free, come and join me, darling, and we can answer these together. I hope that answers your question. Visual evidence. Let's look at the next one. Okay. How you confirm something you discern versus a bias? There are lots of questions. This is good. Okay, we got a few more. I'll try and answer these ones, and then we'll call it quit. Thank you guys for staying with me. How do you confirm something you discern versus a bias thought process from hurt or trauma? Okay, so I think it's you have to. I encourage you to investigate why you feel that way. So if you discern something, I think the best thing to do about anything that you discern, and discerning is sort of you kind of see something that is not obvious. It's not kind of always out there, but you kind of see it, right? So that's what discernment looks like. The next step after you discern something is to investigate. It is in your investigation that you will discover whether it's just something for you or something based on your own experience, or whether it is, and oftentimes I think you've separated the 2, but I don't think it is. I don't think they're often. I think actually you're right. It could be 2 different things. So what I would say is when you discern something, take the time to ask questions. One of the most powerful things you and I can do for ourselves is to investigate, is to know what's going on in our heart. Think about what's going on in your heart. Be invested in what's going on. Learn yourself. Go to therapy if you need to. understand yourself. That would help you so much to differentiate between something, if you like, that is more spiritual or something that is just mind games. Hopefully that makes sense. I hope I understood your question right, and I like to ask you to give me a thumbs up if that makes any sense to you. If not, just rephrase the question and I'll try again. Okay. Brill. I think those are the key questions. The other ones I think we have answered. I'll just look through the comments again. Yeah, I've enjoyed this. Have you enjoyed being on this session with me? Fantastic. I've enjoyed this session. I think I'll park it here for tonight, and then we will come back next week. Next week, I'm going to talk about dating, right? I'm going to talk about dating, the rules of engagement. I'm just going to talk about dating flat out, and it's going to be brilliant. I want you to come on that, whether you are married, whether you are single. I think it's going to be useful. And so jump on that. The same time next week, we're going to have a real conversation. Bring your questions. We'll talk about those things. And I appreciate. And then the next week, we'll talk about family, and then we'll do marriage. But thank you so much for joining me. Welcome. Thank you for joining from Florida. I really appreciate you joining. We see people on Facebook, on YouTube. Just thank you so much. We'll come back next week. We'll be dealing with the real stuff. If you would like to give to Radiant City, for those of you who are joining online and wherever you're joining, everyone is joining online. Please just jump on radiantcitylondon.com. If you want to give financially into the work that we do, all of your giving goes straight to the work we do at Radiant City Church London. So if you would like to give, we appreciate your giving. Thank you so much. And yes, God bless you. We'll see you again next week. Thank you, everyone. And please do me a favor, tell somebody about it next week. And put the word out. Let's get more people on. Because I know people need what we're talking about. So bring your questions. Think about your questions. Let's dig into this next week. See you soon.